Hey, everybody, it's a woman's podcast. This is Ella, and today we are speaking with Witchy XX. Hello.
Hi, Ella. I'm also known as Natalie to people in my personal life. So just you can say that if you'd like. Up to you.
Natalie, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
It's the first time we've gotten to actually speak, verbally. It's always been written up to now.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. The technology allows us to do that.
Yeah, really.
But they're going to give us something.
But you know what? The making the connections with people that you otherwise wouldn't is actually cool.
Yeah, and it is heartening to connect with other people that have similar opinions or have at least done some research about this topic, and don't call you a crazy person outright.
No,
That's
it's
fun.
definitely fun to find like-minded people who share your experience and or want to even just be cordial and you know what I mean? Just nice.
Yeah, like let's have a conversation, even if we don't
Exactly. Let's
agree.
just have an open conversation with each other and not call each other names and not berate each other, and maybe we can get somewhere.
Maybe.
Maybe. But you
We'll
did say I
see.
get to call you an asshole if I want, so we'll
Yeah,
see.
if I become that way, go for it.
So yeah, speaking, we're just saying how I was excited to interview you because I do watch your content and I think you're super cool, and I just wanted to kind of get your input on feminism and the state of the world right now. So, what is your view of like your feminism, and how did you come to that state of feminism?
I was probably the last person that would call myself a feminist up until a few years ago. I always would say, I'm a humanist, that kind of BS.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
well, I think we're about the same age. So it's sort of, that kind of like cool girl persona that you want to be instead of like, oh, I'm this woman who has critical thoughts. Um, and my journey to this kind of idea, this sort of mindset, was really, and this is going to be embarrassing, but it was because of an ex of mine decided he was a lady one day, and
Oh
it broke my brain basically.
yeah.
And so I had, as the weird nerd that I am, I had to read a lot. And so what I did was I sort of read a lot of different things. I read a lot of second wave literature. Um, and it actually helped me a lot. And in a way, in a perverse way, it's kind of a positive thing that happened discovering radical feminism, because it helped me put things into perspective that I feel like I always kind of thought that's how things were, but I didn't have a way to articulate it. So, in a weird way, thanks, dude.
That's kind of how I feel about radical feminism too. It's like I've always had the thoughts and the feelings that I've had about society and the way everything is, but like nobody really could put it into words for me. Like I was part of this like cannabis mom Facebook group, and I thought we were like thought it was radical feminism, but it turns out we were fourth waivers, and it's that was my kind of like segue into radical feminism. But like I really thought that was like it for me, right? I was like, I thought I found something, and then I was like, oh, still not. No, we're not there yet, because like I don't think sex work is work, right?
Right. I could
Like,
never. So I'd have people in university try to like challenge me, not me really particularly, but just the ideas of like mainstream feminism at the time. And they were
yeah.
talking about SLUT walks. And I was just like, yeah, I don't really get it either, to be honest, So there was always like a lacking of mainstream feminism that I was like, I think made me refuse to call myself that, because I think their arguments don't make any sense. And so then when I found radical feminism, I was so excited because I was like, wow, this actually makes sense. and there's real analysis here. And I think that's been kept from us. I think it's been buried. There are lots of reasons, but I think one of the main ones is because postmodernism became popular in the academy, and it's sort of, I think, is a natural backlash to radical feminism, and pushed it out, and things sort of became gender studies and all these kind of ambiguous things that aren't helpful to women at all. And were not helpful to me at that age either. I was like, what? This doesn't make any sense. I'll just do me and be who I am. So yeah, but when I found these texts, when I started reading Dworkin, or I read Kate Millett's book, I read a lot of stuff in the period of maybe, I don't know, 5 months or something. I was like, fine, I'll give myself a historical course on second wave feminism. It just made so much more sense.
Sorry, I was going to say, do you think that postmodernism, like you said, you think it's like a kind of a backlash to radical feminism? I feel like more like it was like, not just a backlash, but strategic, like planned, methodical way to try to dismantle feminism. Not just a backlash, but like, how could we, like, they really had to dig deep to figure out, like, how can they dismantle our argument about women being oppressed by men, and then like they built it on, like, I don't think it was just, do you think I'm crazy?
No, I don't think you are. I think there's a lot of stuff that you can there's sort of a confluence of events, right? So you have this ideology that's being pushed, and it could have been, I mean, I do think what I mean by backlash is like people who were philosophers at that time were very upset with what second wave feminists were saying. So yeah, I do think there was a concerted effort to shut down any sort of movement of women who were finally recognizing, like, this is real, this is how we should deal with it. And what happened was postmodernism was like, well, there is no objective truth. So it was from there very, I think, easy to dismantle any sort of material analysis of things. I don't know if it was planned, but it certainly did happen that way. So either way, either way, we're out.
So what, so like radical feminism for you, has it, beyond the fact that like your ex decided to well,
be a lady,
lack of a better word, be a lady man.
Be a lady, whatever the fuck that means.
What other things or experiences have you found to be either helpful, relevant, or like, what's your focus right now within feminism?
Well, I think when that happened, this was a few years ago, I found all these YouTube channels to watch, and I listened to a lot of Terry Strange's videos, and I'm not necessarily even sure that I am a radical feminist at this point, because there are certain things, like I don't like men, but I think there are. It's kind of difficult. It gets to be very culty. So I was very involved for like, I don't know, a little while in the community online. And then I kind of distanced myself because it felt a little overbearing and I didn't agree with everything. And that's totally fine. No one has to agree with everything that you agree with.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And we can all have our different opinions about feminism and what it means to us. And that's, important, I think, to not focus on political purity. But yeah, I just sort of distanced myself, and I decided I would just like work on the things that inspire me, or the projects that I feel like I should have been a journalist, because researching is sort of a second nature to me. I try to find as many things to read as I can. And yeah, right now I'm sort of I'm just finishing a video actually about what I think the origin of gender identity is. Um, and yeah, now I'm working on a series of just like men that people valorize and they probably shouldn't. But that's like the majority of them, in my
Yeah,
opinion. But
you
hey,
know,
there are certain ones though that are like super famous, like Julian Assange, or um, I don't know if you know who Genesis P. Orridge was, but there's certain figures that I want to say men on the left valorize, and I don't think that it's right. I don't think it's good to idolize these kinds of people. So that's kind of what
yeah.
I'm working on now. That's my project at the moment. But I
Is it,
haven't posted anything. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
sorry, the valorization, is it, do you find that it's kind of based on like, uh, they kind of, they're just being like the base level kind of decent human being and that's why they shouldn't be valorized? Or, um, you know, they're still ancient men doing bad things and that shouldn't be, you know, like you said.
Well, we reward certain behaviors in our society because it is a patriarchy. So we reward certain behaviors of people. In Assange, I found him to be very egotistical, extremely narcissistic, demanding, also extremely like unorganized and wanting people to clean up after his messes. And I just think that's like kind of typical male behavior. And I think some of the people on the left see him and they don't understand like what kind of person he really is. And so that's just one example. Um, but yeah, I think the latter thing that you said is more what I'm interested in.
Very good. Cool. Okay. And what else was I gonna- how long have you been doing this YouTube thing? You just said a few years, you said?
I think it was, I want to say it was about, what is it, 2020 now? Like, what year is it?
Exactly.
Yeah,
No,
I don't even
1984. It's
time.
1984.
Right. Um, just about, I would say like 3 years, I guess. When that happened, because like when was Trump elected? Is it?
Like it's four, wouldn't it be
Oh
4 years
no,
ago?
like almost 4 years ago now. I think the official first video, like I started thinking about these things 4 years ago, and then the first official video I made was maybe 3 years, like in January there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And sorry, you were saying, I was talking to you earlier about how I have a lot of fans.
Fans.
um,
Air
and you
quote
were saying
fans.
that you don't typically, these people don't kind of find you. So you haven't had like necessarily a negative experience as a feminist on YouTube?
I think I made a couple of videos that were sort of joke videos about certain members of their community, but I've never put my face out there because I'm like an old school internet user. Like when we first had the internet, we were like, how can we be a different person on this thing? Like, how can we be
Yeah.
totally anonymous? Like, we weren't thinking about the Facebook style of the internet where everyone is who they say they are. And that's not even the case, obviously, now, but it seems like more transparency is something people are more interested in than before when it was like, oh, this is kind of a weird anonymous thing that I can use, which people still use it that way too. But I think there's more, I'm this personality, right, on this thing, and you
Hmm.
want to project a certain personality.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I don't make videos about other YouTubers very often because I'm not that interested. Maybe I'm a narcissist, I don't know. But I I did make a video a couple years ago, and I can't remember this person's name, but because I used their name and I basically called them out on being a liar, this video is gone. You can't watch it. It got me banned from YouTube or shadow banned. I don't know. I couldn't live stream for 3 months. And this person doesn't even have a YouTube. So
Cool.
these men are very powerful. And they have like hordes of flying monkeys, you know, to follow. their commands. So I don't know. I don't have a huge following. I think the same people that probably watch Terry or Leah are tuning in here, and that's
Yeah.
cool. That's fine. Like, it really is for people who are maybe first discovering this stuff and they don't know that as much as I do. And I don't expect to have everyone read as much as I am reading about this material.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
just look at it from like an educational kind of standpoint. Yeah, I don't really engage with other YouTubers. I think it's very childish. YouTube is very childish. But I'm sure that if I became more popular, like a Posey Parker type person, you know, I would catch the ear or ire, however you say that word, of them. And there's certain, I met Lear Keith, I met some women from Wolf, and they definitely their lives have been threatened. And so it's not really about me. And I hear that you've had some really terrible things happen to you. So I just, it makes it seem like they don't have any kind of argument when they attack us that way. When they're just like, die! And you're like, okay, well, but do you have anything to say that actually refutes what I'm saying? Because they don't. So I'm very fortunate. I'm very, very fortunate. And I thank the universe or whatever it is that's looking out for me.
The atoms out in the
What?
air. Thank you neutrons, thank you electrons.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Whatever. Yeah. No, but but still, like having your channel struck like that and your video removed and like not being able to stream and stuff like that for a period of time, that is still quite, like you said, they're very powerful. I've had a few, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Twitter accounts banned for saying simple things like, men aren't women.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said,
facts.
Yes, biological facts are transphobic, and they get you banned and fired from jobs apparently now. And also they get you. Like you said, the thing that happened to me, 2 days ago, I just said fuck it, and I turned off the comments on every single one of my videos because I just can't deal with all these little kids. They're all little kids. Like if I look at my analytics, like my audience is like they're all 14 to 18-year-old girls that are angry because I'm not validating their mental illness, and just come and tell me every day how much they hate me and I'm a bad mom and that my kids should be taken away and I'm transphobic and all these things. And it's just
that was completely disgusting what happened. I didn't even know because, like I said, I'm an asshole and I don't follow a lot of what else is going on in the whatever community it is that we supposedly have. But I saw some of the things that had happened to you. You sent me some links, and like that's just outrageous. It's harassment. It's totally not right what they do and say to you just because you have opinions that are based in fact.
I know. And I understand that there's a little bit of anger because you're not allowed to question other people's parenting. I get it. Like, I know it's a thing. I know it's sensitive, but like, I don't give a fuck. I'm allowed to say it. Like, I didn't, the thing is that.
Well, it would be totally off topic for me to criticize parenting right now, but there are definitely strategies out there. This thing where you're not ever supposed to say no. That's crazy to me. That's like totally off topic.
Yeah, no, well, that was part of the issue. It's like,
yeah,
well, apparently these kids were told no, but they did it anyways, and there was no way to stop them, even though they were told no. And I am a lunatic for saying that they should have still been stopped. I don't know, but anyway, it's just it was silly to go to that length. Like, the video had not been seen or viewed like 100 times. Like, there was like a couple.
It's always like 8 people have watched it, and then one of them is angry about it, so they go after you, and that means that they're spending their time trying to find these videos. Like, God, get a life.
Oh, 100% they're looking for the video because I didn't use their current name. I didn't use like anything that would like indicate that it was them, right?
Right.
And also the like, so she's made like the video is made approximately $800. It's been viewed almost 200,000 times. So like on top of doing something that was like actually illegal, because the video's been blocked in Canada for defamation, right?
Mhm.
So, but it's not been taken down for harassment because if you don't have a silver play button, apparently YouTube won't do anything about that.
No, I mean they have the same issues with like Onision. So good job, YouTube.
Right? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's
Ineffective management at best.
I don't know what the management is over there, or if there. I don't know. It seems like there isn't any, but the thing that's like really Orwellian about the fact that she got so mad about my video is that she literally made a video just a few weeks before talking about how Onision was a bad parent because his daughter fell out of the window of his house. But she didn't get run over by a vehicle and get third-degree burns and have a like whatever kind of fracture that makes your bones stick out of your legs and have to stay in a hospital for 3 months and get skin grafts. Like, I don't know, like, to me, like, it's so funny that the kid, she's like, she doesn't understand the gravity of what happened to like her own sibling, but she can complain about
Mm.
what things that other parents did with their kids. Like, it's, why can she do it but other people? And that's what she does all the time. Like, she attacks everyone but nobody can say anything about her.
Well, and that's a completely out of it's like 101 rules 101 for narcissists. In Darvo, basically, it's just reverse. It's reverse
Yeah.
an attack and blame the
Nine
actual
first
victim. And
victim.
that's I think that's what most people might not understand about this so-called movement is that it's based on narcissistic demands. And
Thank
I'm
you.
not here to like bend your reality for you. That's not my job.
Yeah.
And
That's
I guess
the
I've
thing.
always been a truth seeker, and so yeah, it's completely Orwellian. Like he is she is he. Like we've always been at war with Eurasia or whatever, you know.
I just, yeah, and like beyond the like, okay, fine, you want to say he is she is he, you can fool yourself of however you want, but the fact that people think that they can impose
Mm-hmm.
a false reality onto others to force them to speak and behave the way that
Mm-hmm.
they like so that they are happy. Like,
Yep.
what is that? I like, I understand it's narcissism, but like, how did you come to this fucking conclusion? It's
Ugh.
crazy.
The
Too much.
internet and Tumblr, I guess. I'm
Honestly, a lot
not
of
sure.
that because so many of the trans YouTubers are really like, oh, you know what? Like, I watched a lot of YouTube and that's how I found out about being trans. And it's like, oh, this is exactly why we do this, is because like somebody needs to counter this narrative that's being like promoted so heavily
Well, it's
on
grooming.
social media platforms.
Yeah. But yeah, that's and I think another reason this issue sparked my interest. Let's say my ex had never even said any of the things he did. Let's say he doesn't exist. I still felt uncomfortable about it. I remember maybe 5, even 10 years ago now on the internet, and this was sort of becoming a thing. I was like, these kids are crazy. Like, this is sexism. Like, I don't know how anyone sees this as something that's not sexism because it's obvious. It's so obviously sexism to me. Like, oh, because I like X, Y, and Z, it makes me a boy or a girl. That's crazy. That's stupid. It's
Oh,
stupid.
and productive as fuck. Like,
Yeah. And so
show
me, I always felt uncomfortable with
negative
it. I was always sort of like, okay, well, whatever, I'll just let them live their lives. But when this happened, it sort of sparked me reading more. And when I found out all this legislature that's been being trying to, I'm sorry, I'm like fumbling over my words, but all this legislature that's they're trying to change, they're
Mhm.
trying to expand the definition of woman, and that just makes it meaningless. So when I found out about that, and when I found out it was like, oh, kids who like this, I was like, I could have been this kid. You know what I mean? Like, I was whatever they call like a tomboy, I guess. You know, I like climbing trees. I played a lot of sports. But this stuff wasn't around then. So my mother wasn't like, she's a boy because she likes doing this stuff. You know, it was the 80s. It was the early 90s, you know, like I think was a freer time, which is sad. It's sad to say the late 80s and early 90s was a freer time than now.
Yeah, it's weird. We're definitely going backwards with everything. I don't know how.
I have a joke that it's like the Mayan calendar actually did end, and we're all just in this weird, terrible alternate universe that gets worse and worse.
Yeah, right. It just kind of like, yeah, we shifted into an alternate universe at that point in time because, yeah, everything's fucked up now. Like, it's crazy.
Otherwise, I can't make sense of it. But I think people, you know, people are very intelligent. I do think that. I'm optimistic. And I think the more that this sees like the light of day and more their actual ideas are out there, the more other people are like, no, that's not right. That's my hope,
but like
anyway.
we are actually being prevented by legislature from saying no, that's not right. Like Bill C-16 in Canada there's like a lot of kind of variation between the federal, provincial, like, and the like the provincial human rights tribunal and the federal criminal code, whatever. So that it's kind of conflicting in some places, but at the same time, it says like you can't misgender people.
Right,
and like
it's compelled speech up there in Canada.
Yeah, and then also now, so there was Bill C5 or C202, a provincial bill, and it was passed, and that was in regards to doctors not being able to perform what's it called, gay conversion therapy. But now the federal bill, so C8, enforces that you cannot not allow your child to transition, and if you don't, then you can go to jail, and like your kid can get hormones no matter what you say. They can get their surgeries no matter what you say.
Terrifying.
So like, yeah, it's getting worse. It's like
why would we let children make any decision like that?
Honestly, I can't. I mean, money is like the only reason I can garner, but like, because a lot of the kids now are growing up and saying like, I shouldn't have done this. Like, I regret this and I'm going to sue the gender clinic now.
Well, that's the thing. There were a lot of members. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, I don't have an answer as to why, is what I was saying. I'm done. Go ahead.
Oh, there are a lot of members of the TAVISTOCK clinic that basically were giving their resignations because they viewed transgender sort of procedures as being anti-gay. So, and I think it was more of a rhetorical, like, why are we letting kids make these decisions? The truth is we shouldn't be allowing children to make decisions. We don't let them smoke. We don't let them drink. We don't let them drive cars.
Yeah.
We don't let them do lots of things. So why should we be letting them make decisions that would impact their life for the whole future of their lives? It just doesn't. Transgenderism, eating disorders, these are things that teen girls latch on to because they have no control over anything else in their life. And so the thing that they can get control of is their body. I didn't have a severe eating disorder, but I did grapple with that at some point in my life. And so I understand how it feels to want to have control over anything. And that's what also upsets me about this, is that we're not seeking to find the root causes of the reason why these girls are doing this.
Yeah, no, it's very true. Like, day, I have disordered eating. When I was a teen, I started like with restriction and I was bulimic a little bit, but now it's just like I've ruined my appetite. I don't ever have hunger, and also I'm sure that my CPTSD has like a huge role playing with my eating right now, because it's like I can't even, if I'm in the middle of eating and some shit goes down, like I even just get a message or a phone call that like sets me back into that kind of mind state of something traumatic happening at that point in time, I can't eat anything anymore. I can't chew, I can't swallow. It's like completely not a thing I can do anymore. So it's all tied together for sure.
Yeah.
But
a lot of it is really just an expression of the hatred that we feel every day. We internalize it and do things to our bodies and ourselves that are harmful.
Yep. I thought that if I thought that if I maintained this skinniness, it would make up for the fact that I had a big nose. It would make up for the fact that like I didn't have big boobs. It would make up for the fact that like, you know what I mean? I wasn't stereotypically pretty. And then also it translated into like this continued disordered eating. Like I'm dysfunctional now forever because of that. You know what I mean? I don't even think those things necessarily anymore. I'm totally okay with the way I look, but I still can't eat anymore. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think I have the opposite. I overeat especially when I'm upset. So, but
so like
yeah, kind of the same. And I know it was rhetorical, but I think, and I will sound like a crazy tinfoil hat person, but the more you read about this, what?
I said I love tinfoil hat people.
Well, the more that you read about this and the more that you see the sort of language that they use about consent, it just appears to be a front to allow for pedophilia to become normalized. Allowing children to have consent like this is that. I implore anyone, read any of the literature that they themselves have put out. I'm not talking about anything that I've written or you've written or any feminist has written. I'm talking about what these men have written. It gets to be very creepy. You're like, okay, so everyone has consent. Children should be able to tell their parents, like, I want this. This is what I'm doing. That's bananas.
Well, yeah, that's the gateway, right? Like if kids have legal recourse and legal grounds to say, I am able to make these decisions, then yes, we are opening the door for pedophiles to say, this kid is old enough to make this kind of life-changing decision. This kid is old enough to say whether or not they want to do nasty
whether or not
things.
they love me. Yeah. And people are like, oh, you're crazy. Like when I say things like that, I'm like, just read it. Just read all the things I've read, please, and come to a different conclusion. Try. I just beg anyone to do it.
I know, and even people will question me and say, where do you see this? Where do you see this? Like, I'm like, well, the internet and Twitter. And they're like, yeah, but that's the internet. I'm like, yeah, but I'm sorry, these things that are like tweeted and retweeted like tens of thousands and sometimes hundreds of thousands of times, like that's a lot of people who believe the same thing. It's not just on the internet. Those people are real people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's funny that people think that just because you see it online, it can't happen in front of your eyes, just because it might be behind closed doors, to be honest. Like, it's not, I don't know, it's weird that people just don't want to believe. But it's like, how can you not believe? Like look at the things that are happening in law right now. You know what I mean? Like, we can't even get women's rights, like, in place proper. But, the trans cult has been able to propel their movement the same, velocity and like
with if not even more velocity. Yeah.
well, in just the last 10 years, like over the same duration
Right.
that, like, since the suffragettes have been suffragetting till now, the trans cult made the same amount of progress in the last decade alone. And like,
And it's because they're men.
yeah,
And it's
exactly.
because they've been at this. And so
Mentor.
the most recent video I'm about to put out, I'm editing it now. I have been working on this months ago, but I just sort of, lots of things have been happening personally. But so I found a document from the 90s that it basically proves they've been trying to do this for at least 2 decades now, you know?
Yeah.
So it's been a concerted effort. They've been extremely organized. They have these conferences, like, if you're familiar with academics at all, they have the same kinds of conferences where all these people with shared interests get together and they talk about their agenda and how they can push it forward. And in academic circles, that's more or less benign, right? But in this, it's like these dudes who are lawyers and judges and have endless pockets of money, are writing these things, and they're changing legislature. They're introducing things into the UN, SOGI, sexual orientation and gender identity, which really don't have anything to do with each other.
No, nothing at all.
If you understand what those things mean, you've got sexual orientation, which is totally objective. It's not something someone feels, that it's who they are. And then you've got gender identity, which is whatever the fuck you want it to be. It's not definable. It isn't. And it's not even definable in their own freaking documents. So that's actually the latest thing that I'm putting out now. I've been inspired because of this coronavirus.
Oh, yes, coronavirus. That's a fun topic. Yeah, let's talk about that now.
It's a similar situation, I feel, where the mainstream media has this narrative and they're going to push it on people. But if you look at the actual data, the coronavirus is no more deadly than the flu.
Yeah, no, it's just that it's more contagious, I guess. It spreads
It's a little bit more contagious, but not even around children, which, is the population we should really, not that I'm going to do triage here, but it just seems to be blown out of proportion. Just like, so sort of relating it to transgenderism, it's the same thing. We see stories every day, such and such was killed, or this happened. And it's always these sort of fear-mongering aspects of the media. It could be transgenderism, it could be COVID-19, it could even be Trump's reelection. And I have American friends who are like, "You're Trumpian." I'm like, I don't agree with him, but you know what? I also don't think he's like, all men to me are basically awful. Okay. It doesn't like matter if it's Trump or not. Like, of course he would get elected. Like, did you guys really think misogyny would be a deal breaker? Like, I don't know. I just get so frustrated with people who can't see nuance and who don't read and who don't do their own research. Because if you come at me, if you've done some of your own research, and I have to look into things that you're saying, sure, that's fine. I would love to have a conversation with you. But most people who I'll say left, in air quotes here, on the left, are complete and total sheep. They just listen to the narrative that's being pushed. They believe the things that the media is saying, and that's the end. And I don't blame them, Not everybody has the time or patience to read as much as I do, I guess. But it doesn't make you an authority on things. So I just get really frustrated with the people I know. I'm like, just do some reading. Just read some stuff. Here, I'll send you some links.
Yeah.
But yeah, COVID, I think the reaction is, the reaction to COVID scares me more than COVID.
We were saying earlier, saying how everything's just like shut down, drop of a dime. Like, these men who are in charge of the world, they just say, "Hey, stop it, stay home," and everything stops.
Yep.
we're
And even,
also
even though
sensitive.
Trump is like a horrible character, he said something, and sometimes he like says things that make sense. So he was like, this will make people crazy, and it totally will.
Oh
It's
yeah.
it's and they know this. I mean, tinfoil hat, right? So like the CIA knows about this.
Yeah.
They know isolation makes people crazy.
Hmm?
And they say it's because of this virus, but I just don't. I haven't seen any data that makes me feel like I should have to stay inside. It's not like Ebola. It has an 80% recovery rate, as
Mm.
far as I know. So I think, yeah, it's similar. It's this narrative that they can churn out, they can make people afraid, they can control people through fear. I don't know who said it, but if you tell somebody one little lie and you get them to believe it and you say it over and over again, it's so much easier to manipulate that society. And so that's how I see transgenderism, is just like a lie that's out there to manipulate us. And I'm
Yeah,
out
no,
here to try to
definitely is it.
refute it any way I can.
Yes. Yes. No, you're definitely right. It's perpetuated in that format that just like and that's why we're branded turfs, right? If we try to fight back there and like there is no constructive conversation, there is no disagreement to be had. They are just like, no, shut you down. We're not going to tolerate you. We're not going to let you in. We're not going to let you speak because you are not following our rules.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Well, it's a
it's really
cult.
tyrannical.
Mm-hmm. Um,
And
well, actually, though, I do want to say that the use of turf was interesting to me on the internet, because the first time I read that, I was like, what are they talking about? Who are these women that are so evil? And
right.
I had to look it up. And I was like, oh, wait, I agree with what they're saying.
I'm the
And so
devil.
actually they're doing great PR for us, because I think there are a lot of women out there like me who are like, what does that mean? Oh.
Very true.
So
Very true.
I,
And the good part about that is that it's like automatic. You automatically know that you're being targeted and hated
yeah.
by misogynists. Like as soon as you look it up and you agree to it, like you see the definition, you realize like, oh yeah, like this makes total sense. And
Mhm.
you see the arguments and the connotation that it's said with, you're like, I'm hated because of this. Like, and there's no going back. Like you're like, oh, okay, well, guess what?
Nope.
I am turf. Eat shit.
Whoops. Yeah. I just think they're delusional to think that this could last much longer.
Yeah, like how it's funny because like, oh, okay, another big part of the
Which is
video
why
that
they're
kind
doing
of,
it all in secret, by the way. Because they know if people knew about it, people would be really against it.
and
Sorry.
yeah, well, that's the reason I think that, well, that's why they have to keep shutting feminists down at every corner. Like even in the UK, like even the meetings that women were having in the basements, like these
Mm-hmm.
trans activists were like banging on their freaking windows on their houses, like
Yeah.
super creepy and super super controlling and super like not normal.
Not normal.
Right.
No.
And
And
like,
not somebody with a strong conviction or argument either.
yeah, no, like if you had something really, relevant and really strong to say, like you would just like, say it and stand in it and like, okay, like let's deal with this. Let's converse about this. Let's like prove your points. Like I want to prove like all of my points. I want to say like this is where I got this information. This is how I know this. Like I want to do that with people. I don't want to just say a bunch of crap and look like an idiot afterwards because I didn't know what I was talking about.
Yeah, that
Uh,
was the funniest thing I thought about those Seattle protests, was like certain people were asked like, so what does Wolf think? Like why are you here? And they're like, I don't know, I just heard I should be here.
yeah, like no, I'm just protesting because
Because they're turfs and they're
turf.
bad.
Yeah, turf shouldn't be allowed to speak. Shut women up. That's why I'm here.
Right.
Ah, oh,
Yeah, they don't even know what they believe in.
no, they just believe in their cult. It's just something to latch on to because they're weak-minded and they've got either mental illness or trauma and they don't want to deal with it or face it. So let's find something to fill up our ego and our illness to replace like therapy.
Basically. And in this Gender Bill of Rights that I'm going to publish a video on very shortly, part of it is to be free. Let me see if I can find it actually. Because I have all my notes on this table. But basically, number 6 of this thing says the right to competent medical and professional care. Wait, no, that's not the right one. Sorry. That one's fine. The right to freedom from involuntary psychiatric diagnosis and treatment. So this removes all kind of like safeguarding that would have been in place, right? Like, we're not going to be called autogynephilic. We're not sexually like deviant, we have this right to be free of that. And this was this thing that I read that was basically put forward in the 90s and now is international law is being based on this thing. So yeah, they wanted from the beginning to be like, oh yeah, we're not weird. We don't have any psychiatric issues. And I think that's like actually a real danger to people who are feeling this mind-body disconnect, which I do believe happens. But I don't think it's as frequently as they want me to believe. I think it's a pretty rare occurrence. And not even that rare in females, right? Like, who wants to be a girl? Who wants to be a 13-year-old girl? Like, no one. Nope.
No, very true.
So it makes more sense now because this stuff has been popularized that teenage girls are like, well, maybe I'm a boy. And you're like, no, you just hate being a girl because being a girl sucks because we live in a society that hates us. Like,
it's like I'm not like other girls to the extreme.
Mm-hmm.
It's really sad. It's internalized misogyny.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I do believe that like the trauma of that can cause for like the dissociative and like depersonalization and derealization of the self, like and then that can cause that for girls, but for guys a lot of the time and most of the time I just think it's
sexual deviance,
like disorder. I don't
it's addiction to porn as well.
Yeah, definitely porn sick and yeah, well that's
because let's face it, like if they had, so like let's say, I don't know, like let's say this was 1950 something, they wouldn't have access to the same kind of material. So there'd still be like men like trying to self-pleasure or whatever, but they probably wouldn't be seeing these images that are, promoting this kind of thing. And a lot of it's this fetishization of submission, a lot of it. So they see us as, being submissive. We're women, so that's what we are in society, right? And it turns them on. So a lot of that is, it's sad. It's so predictable. That's the motivation, but it is for many of them.
Men.
So, yeah, they're so predictable. They'll always just think with their peens. That's about it. That's all you need to know.
I know what? Oh, I told my son today. I was like, dude, listen to me. He's 11. I was like, you do not need to have sex to be a man, to be a whole person, to grow, to have experiences, to be cool. I'm like, this is not a thing. Like, I don't ever want you to focus on that. I'm like, if your friends are like trying to get you to focus on that, be like, you know what? You're a kid and your brain's not even fully developed until you're 25. So like maybe you should get
a hobby.
Yeah, find a hobby. He was actually, I mean, I know he's still quite young, so like it still kind of grosses him out, which like I'm happy because like I want to get him right.
And that's like the opposite of what these people want. They don't want that reaction from an 11-year-old. They want this 11-year-old to be like open to these ideas.
To being abused.
It's complete grooming, yeah.
Yeah, grooming. Yeah, it is. It's grooming to be abused by pedophiles and by the medical, like, the medical field, the medical, what? I don't know what the word I want to use. A medical establishment. That's the word. Thank you.
Yeah.
Even with my daughter that was in the beginning of that video that I did that I got like tons of hate for. I was making the video and like she just kind of like walked in on me and like I picked her up and she started talking to me, right? And like she pointed out that she could see that the girl on the screen was a girl. Like I didn't coax her, I didn't teach her, like I didn't prompt her.
Because children know.
Yeah, like I totally, right?
And that's
Go ahead.
No, continue. You continue.
I was just saying that for doing that and for allowing her to make her like realization and allow her to understand what she's seeing and not question her and not like correct her and make her question her reality. I am being told that I am that's part of me being a bad mother. That's me being transphobic. I should have told her, no, that's a boy, apparently.
And that's part of the grooming, isn't it? So
yep.
Children know, I think.
They want to groom them even that young. She's only 3. Like,
yeah, because
crazy.
Children know that early. Like, there's a difference between me and that boy over there. That boy over there has that weird thing, and I don't have that weird thing. And like, let's not lie to each other. Kids are always being weird and like showing each other stuff that we wish they wouldn't. You know, I worked with kids for a long, long time. And the issue here is that these people want to take away the natural reasoning that comes when you're a kid, when you know, like, hey, that person is different from me. It doesn't make them worse or better than me. It just means that they have a different body. And kids know this so early. And so these people want to confuse that. And I think they want to confuse it because, as I said, predictably and sadly, this really is just like a gateway to pedophilia and to grooming kids. And we live in this sort of society that sexualizes children at a very early age with things like children pageants and
Desmond.
Desmond is amazing, who is talking to Michael Alec, like, don't get me started on that. His parents are letting him talk to a convicted effing murderer. Like
I can't. That's beyond. That is absolutely. I can't. I don't even have words. Like I can't word right now.
How would you let your child talk to this guy?
No, not how. No, I would never.
Right.
It's not a possibility. It's not in the realm of
all of these people to call you a bad parent when the parents who are probably down with this ideology are like, yeah, Desmond talking to a fucking convicted killer is a great idea. It's crazy.
Oh my God. But no, and the parents who the ones who allow their kids to take puberty blockers, especially the ones who let their daughters take puberty blockers that are like inevitably almost like ensuring that those girls are going to get osteoporosis. And inevitably, like if they take testosterone, they're going to ruin their uteruses and suffer through pain and you know what I mean, like surgeries on surgeries. And like I don't know how these parents, I'm bad, but those parents are good.
Well, it's the same kind of parents that would be, I guess, Scientologists or Children of God or any of these cults that have existed that, allow their kids to be in the...
Like Glory Vallow.
Yeah, any of them. any of these fucking psychos.
Yeah, can you believe that she still has not fucking told anybody what the hell she did with those kids?
I mean, I can believe it, but I don't want to.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
shocked
crazy.
she just will not say words. Like, she will not divulge any information. Like, if you did it, like,
I guess she thinks she's protecting herself. But that, I mean, that could be a whole different video, like a true crime sort of video. But
oh yeah,
I
did
mean,
it.
that's what
Mm-hmm.
me and Roberta talk a lot about, stuff like that.
Ooh, is she gonna do a video?
What's that?
Is she gonna do a video about the Vallow case?
I could
Or
ask
has
her.
she?
She's actually really obsessed about innocence fraud right now, so it's hard to get her mind off of that.
Okay.
Like, we all have our little sort of obsessions, I guess.
No, yeah, no. Sometimes I can pump videos out, and sometimes I don't want to do it. Like, sometimes I have nothing. I sometimes have tons of topics that I could talk about, and I have no drive to do it. But that's a lot of my ADD and my CPTSD kind of popping through. But still, it's like, yeah, I totally understand, like, having that laser focus and being able to go forward and do the things.
Mm-hmm.
When it hits you, when you're inspired. And then obviously I also understand the opposite.
Yeah, I think they're just to like, because I'm actually probably gonna eat soon, but
Yeah.
I think it's, I'm always an optimist, and so I think it's really nice to like what we were talking about earlier, that there are so many people out there that do have the same ideas. Maybe they've come to these conclusions for different reasons, and I think we just have to get together and be a voice of sanity, because once I just like, I don't understand how Canada I don't understand how gender identity and like not misgendering someone or whatever became a law. That's
I mean,
craziness to me.
honestly flew under the radar. Like, I didn't know it was happening until it was fucking like almost past.
Over.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like it was crazy. I still to this day don't know how that happened. It went through without having had a proper
Like a
like
review or something.
yeah, a review, and there's a petition to try to get that review published, because the government said like no, due to, like, I don't know,
Do
some
you have
kind of,
anything similar to the Freedom of Information Act up there,
yeah,
or?
that's it. We tried to get it under the Freedom of Information Act, and they still said no because of some privacy something or other. So there's a petition now asking for them to release it, because all the laws that Trudeau said would be passed, all legislation would be faced with this review. So if this review wasn't done, then we kind of have more of a leg to stand on to get the bill repealed.
It sounds like
So,
they did some things very, if not illegally, very close to being illegal.
well, yeah, the Trudeau's government has not exactly been,
Transparent.
yeah, transparent. Most of it's running. But okay, you go and eat,
Yeah,
and we're going
I
on an
could
hour.
talk all day.
Yeah, no, if you ever want to chit chat again, I would love to talk to you. I'm sure the girls would love to have you on. Like, Sarah is on a hiatus right now. So, okay, go eat your food, and I
Oh.
will message you later.
But yeah, say hi to people. I do watch Dworkin's Ghost sometimes. I like
Okay.
her channel. Thanks for
Okay, well, thank
chatting.
you so
You're really
much.
nice. Say
Oh,
hi.
you're
Say hi.
dude, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, anytime.
Hey, lovely. You have a great night. Don't get sick, and
Stay safe.
hopefully this is over sooner than we expect.
I just want to go. I want to go to a restaurant and sit down and like order something.
You know what? I don't even want to do that. I just want to be able to go to like the grocery store without wearing a full snowsuit, a mask, gloves, like a hood, and have to be 6 feet spaced apart from every other person that, you know what I mean, is around. And I had to like make arrangements to make sure that I didn't have to take them into Costco with me.
Well, stay safe, and
Yeah,
I'll talk to you again. Say hi to the people.
I will. Have a good night. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.